Most men are at war with themselves and don't even know the battle has begun. They wake up scattered, move through their days reactive, and end each night wondering why nothing is changing. The problem isn't that they lack ability. The problem is that their power is fragmented, their attention is fractured, and their will has been surrendered to every external force that knows how to capture it. But there exists a different breed of man, a man who understands something fundamental that separates him from the ordinary. Power is not something you inherit or stumble into. Power is something you architect. It is built with precision, protected fiercely, and deployed strategically. This is not theoretical. This is the operating system of every man who has ever truly dominated his domain. What you are about to hear are 9 principles extracted from history, from psychology, and from the observable patterns of men who refused to be average. These are not motivational platitudes. These are structural blueprints for building an architecture of power that cannot be moved, cannot be broken, and cannot be diminished by circumstance.
Principle 1. The internal battlefield. Before you ever compete with another man, you must first defeat the version of yourself that negotiates with weakness. Your mind is the territory. Your discipline is your defense. Your focus is your weapon. Every undisciplined thought that lingers in your consciousness without purpose is an open door to your enemy. Every distraction you entertain is a crack in your fortress. Every moment you choose comfort over growth is a surrender you make before the actual battle ever begins. The man who cannot command his own mind will never command anything else.
This is not philosophy. This is survival. Your thoughts either serve your mission or they work against it. There is no neutral space in your skull. You either occupy it with intention or something else will occupy it for you. The general does not allow his soldiers to wander aimlessly through his camp. He assigns them purpose. He directs their energy. He knows exactly what each one is doing and why. Treat your consciousness the same way. Every mental resource you possess is either deployed toward your goal or it is being wasted on the irrelevant. Most men lose the internal war before they ever face external opposition, and they never even realize they were supposed to be fighting. Principle 2. Calculated response, not reactive emotion. Watch how weak men behave when pressure arrives. They flinch. They respond emotionally. They move without thought, like puppets responding to strings they didn't even know were attached. This is predictability. And predictable men are controlled men. The world is constantly testing you. Every insult is a test. Every setback is a test. Every moment of chaos is designed to trigger an emotional response that reveals your weakness to anyone sharp enough to recognize it. Most men fail these tests immediately because they believe their feelings are commands rather than data. But a different class of man operates from an entirely different framework. When pressure arrives, he doesn't react, he calculates. He builds a gap between what happens and how he responds. Inside that gap lives his power. He observes the situation with cold clarity. He measures the weight of every possible move. He considers the end game before he makes the opening move, and only then does he act, with precision, with purpose, with devastating effectiveness. This gap between stimulus and response is where your sovereignty lives. The larger you can make that gap, the more control you possess over your life. The more you collapse that gap, the more you surrender your power to whatever can trigger you. Your emotional reactions are not your strength, they are your exposure. Learn to read your emotions without being ruled by them, and you become untouchable. Principle 3. The ruthless audit of everything. A prince who tries to keep everyone happy will eventually be destroyed by everyone. You cannot build something great while carrying dead weight. And your environment is full of dead weight. Relationships that drain more than they contribute, habits that sabotage more than they build, people who pull you backward while claiming they're helping you move forward. The man who refuses to be average conducts an unflinching audit of his entire life. He asks uncomfortable questions. Does this relationship elevate my trajectory or dilute it? Does this habit build my capacity or erode it? Does this person challenge me upward or pull me downward? Does this environment produce the man I'm engineering, or does it trap me in the man I'm trying to leave behind? These questions will reveal something that most men avoid. The people closest to you are often your greatest limiters, not out of malice, but because they are comfortable with your current ceiling. When you begin to raise your standards and exceed what they're willing to attempt, you become a mirror they don't want to look into. They will call it concern, they will frame it as loyalty, but they are protecting the shared limitation from being broken. This requires ruthlessness, not cruelty, but clarity. You must be willing to create distance from anything and anyone that does not serve your architecture. Your time is finite. Your energy is finite. Your focus is your most valuable asset. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. Principle 4. The power of strategic silence. The loudest men in the room are never the most powerful. Power does not announce itself. Power does not explain itself. Power does not justify itself to people who are not qualified to understand it. Yet most men spend their energy doing exactly the opposite. They explain their moves before they're executed. They defend their decisions to people whose opinions don't matter. They broadcast their plans to people who will calculate how to stop them. They reveal their vulnerabilities to people who will use them as leverage. This is not confidence. This is self-sabotage wearing a confident mask. Information is currency. Every word you speak unnecessarily is a withdrawal from your power account. Every plan you announce before execution is a strategy handed to your opposition. Every emotion you display publicly is a map of your weak points given freely to those who know how to exploit them. The general understands the geometry of silence. He speaks with intention, or he doesn't speak at all. He knows that silence in a conversation is not emptiness, it is pressure. It forces the other person to fill the void, to reveal themselves, to expose their hand while he keeps his close. Silence is intelligence gathering. Silence is control without aggression. Silence is a form of dominance that cannot be argued with because there is nothing visible to target. Stop explaining your vision to people who are not on the battlefield with you. Let your results be your only statement. Your transformation will speak louder than any words ever could. Principle 5. Hunger weaponized, not hunger uncontrolled. The men who reach the summit and then destroy themselves are not destroyed by external enemies. They are destroyed by their own unchecked appetites. Desire for pleasure, addiction to validation, appetite for more, bigger, faster, without the internal architecture to sustain it. This is not ambition. This is slow self-destruction wearing the mask of drive. But hunger itself is not the enemy. Hunger is fuel. The question is whether you control the burn or whether the burn controls you. The most dangerous men who have ever lived were not men without desire. They were men who had learned to place their desire in chains, to direct it, to throttle it, to release it only in the precise direction of their mission. They did not eliminate hunger, they weaponized it.
This requires a specific kind of psychological discipline, the ability to sit across from temptation and choose your mission instead. That single act develops a form of internal dominance that extends far beyond the moment of resistance. You are training your nervous system to obey your intentions rather than your impulses. You are establishing an internal hierarchy where your strategic mind governs your emotional body, not the other way around. Once that hierarchy is established and reinforced through repetition, you become a fundamentally different man. You cannot be easily baited. You cannot be easily manipulated. Your hunger answers to you. And when a man's hunger answers to him, he becomes someone the world has to reckon with.
Principle 6. Build in invisibility until you become undeniable. There is a moment every serious man must face where he makes a choice the world will never understand. The choice to disappear. Not physically, but strategically. To go silent on the public timeline. To stop performing progress for an audience. To close the curtain on the work and grow powerful in the space that silence creates. Most men cannot do this. They are too addicted to the feedback loop, too dependent on being seen, too psychologically fragile to exist without constant external validation. And that addiction is one of the greatest limiters on human potential ever created.
Here's what dark psychology reveals. The moment you begin publicly performing your transformation, broadcasting your progress, announcing your goals, your brain begins to feel satisfied before the work is complete. The social recognition substitutes for actual achievement. You talk like a winner, but move like someone who has already won. Slow, unfocused, dependent on validation. The generals of history who achieved the most decisive victories were the ones their opponents never saw coming. The element of surprise is not just a military advantage, it is a psychological weapon that shatters confidence before the actual confrontation begins. That same principle applies to your life with identical force.
When you resurface after a period of invisible work, sharper, stronger, more capable, more resourced than anyone expected, the psychological impact on those who doubted you is total and irreversible. You don't have to say a word. Your results say everything in a language that cannot be minimized or undermined. This requires internal strength, the ability to find your motivation entirely within yourself, without external eyes fueling you. This is not isolation. This is sovereignty. The man who needs no witness to do the work is the man who will eventually produce work the entire world cannot ignore.
Principle 7. The unbreakable man. There is a particular category of man that exists outside normal understanding. He has been broken before, sometimes completely, sometimes repeatedly, and yet he stands. Not because pain never touched him, but because somewhere in the architecture of his character he developed something most men never cultivate, an unbreakable relationship with his own will. This man does not hope that hardship will not find him. He assumes it will. He prepares for it methodically, and when it arrives, and it always arrives, he does not scramble for survival. He executes from a position of prepared strength.
Real psychological strength is not built in comfort. It is built in controlled exposure to difficulty. Every time you choose the harder path when ease was available, you make a deposit into a psychological account that compounds into unshakable confidence. Not the performative confidence of someone who has never been tested, but the quiet, immovable confidence of someone who has been tested repeatedly and is still standing. The unbreakable man has made peace with what is within his control and what is not. He does not waste energy raging against what he cannot change. He focuses everything he has on what belongs to him, his effort, his response, his standards, his direction. And he releases everything else with the detachment of a man who understands where his actual power lives. This produces something that people feel before they can explain. There is a stillness about him that reads as danger. He does not rise to bait. He does not crumble under pressure. He is self-contained. And self-containment at that level is one of the rarest and most commanding qualities a human being can possess. Principle 8. Your circle determines your ceiling. There is a law operating in your life that most men are completely unconscious of, and its invisibility is what makes it so devastating. You will never sustainably outgrow the collective standard of the people surrounding you.
Human beings are not isolated systems. We are permeable. We absorb the values, the language, the limitations, and the ambitions of those closest to us, the way lungs absorb air, automatically, continuously, without conscious permission. Your environment is not just influencing you, it is programming you. A prince surrounded by small thinkers will eventually begin to think small. An entrepreneur surrounded by people who have already surrendered will gradually surrender himself. A man surrounded by people operating below their potential will find himself dropping to match that standard, no matter how high he started. Principle 9. The compound advantage of patience. In a world engineered for instant gratification, the man who masters patience possesses an unfair advantage that no amount of intensity can replicate. The world operates on a false economy of speed. Everyone is rushing. Everyone wants results now. But underneath this frenzy lies a brutal truth. The men who build lasting power are not the fastest, they are the slowest to quit. 1% improvement per day doesn't sound impressive. It doesn't trigger excitement. But compound that over a year and you are 37 times better. Over 5 years, you are operating in a completely different dimension than the man chasing quick wins. But here is what stops most men. The long game requires faith in a process before the process produces proof. It requires showing up on days when nobody is watching, when there is no audience, when the work produces no immediate reward. Most men cannot tolerate this discomfort, so they quit. They switch strategies. They reset their compound clock to 0. The general plays differently. He sets his course with the clarity of a man who understands there is no shortcut to mastery. He accepts that the first year produces minimal visible results. He accepts that it takes until year 3, year 5, year 7 before exponential returns begin to manifest. By then, he is so far ahead of the competition, so embedded in his compounding advantages, that the race is already decided. The long game also builds something irreplaceable in you: reliability. In a culture of quitters and commitment-phobic men, the man who stays becomes indispensable. His word means something. His reputation for follow-through opens doors that hype never could. That trust, built on proven consistency, becomes your most valuable possession. Every day you choose the long game over the quick hit, you are voting for the man you are becoming. Every day you show up when quitting is easier, you are building a version of yourself that operates on a different frequency. After enough days of this, after enough years, you don't need to announce who you are. Your presence signals it. Your track record proves it. Your results validate it. This is why patient men always win. These 9 principles are not optional refinements. They are the structural blueprint for building a life of actual power. Not the illusion of power, but the real thing. The kind of power that cannot be argued with, cannot be undermined, and cannot be taken from you. The choice is yours. You can continue moving through your life as most men do, scattered, reactive, at the mercy of every force that knows how to capture your attention. Or you can begin today to architect your power with the precision of a general, the discipline of a warrior, and the patience of a man who understands that greatness is not built in moments, it is built in systems.
The war inside your skull has already begun. The only question is whether you will finally choose to win it.